Hello, everybody. Welcome to Chat. And yes, I am not Mark Wynter. I am Joe Keep, but today we are going to interview Mark Wynter, the host of Chat. For a while now, I've been watching Mark Wynter interview some of the most interesting people in martial arts and people I've never heard of. Some that are just doing it for a hobby, some who are doing it professional, some styles that are very unique, and maybe some that people don't know about. So I've just been really proud of Mark, what he's done. We've been friends, I want to say over 20 years, trained together. He was a student of mine in Kung Fu, and just somebody I really respect, really love, and just so proud of him. He's been so consistent. I would say probably more consistent than most that are on the internet, offering a chance and an opportunity for people to really hear so many awesome stories from martial art instructors around the world. And I think that's such a positive thing, that way, if you're in your car, you can listen to Chat and hear something about a martial artist and how they made it through their training and success in life. Before we start getting into the questions, I just wanted to, talk a little bit about Sifu Mark, as well, because he's a very humble guy. He doesn't like to brag about his abilities and things like that. But Sifu Mark Wynter is from Jamaica. He's got over 35 years in the martial arts training. That's a long time, long time. He started out at Taekwondo, and then he got heavily into Chole Fut Kung Fu as well. But his real passion has been Tai Chi. So he's been training in the Fu style as well as the Wu style for a very long time. The way I met Sifu Mark Wynter was he was a head of security at a very famous nightclub in Fort Lauderdale. Didn't know him at all, and I just saw him totally with complete confidence grab someone a lot bigger than him, and just there was nothing that person could do, and then he just escorted them nicely out of the club and threw them out. And I was like, wow, this guy could fight. So I tried to recruit him to our school at the time because I was like, this guy would be a good fighter for us, And we became really good friends, and he was more interested in Tai Chi. So he went to the Tai Chi class, and I eventually got him into the Kung Fu class, and he loved it as well, So it was really great. Now, Sifu Mark, besides doing this awesome podcast and YouTube channel, he's been teaching and really trying to help people understand some of the hard nuances and difficulties to get good at Tai Chi. For those of you that have never done Tai Chi, it's not easy in the beginning, but if you have a good teacher that can make you feel good, they can really help you to enjoy the training and enjoy the process. And little by little, you start to really feel the benefits of Tai Chi. So I'm really happy that Sifu Mark is now teaching and doing that. I remember when I actually got him a good teaching gig, with some things there, and he really didn't think, he wasn't sure he was, good enough to do it. And I was like, of course you're good enough to do it, go do it. And he killed it. He killed it. Now he's got even more and more students. So very, very excited and very, very happy about this interview. So I love talking, as some of you who know me know, and those of you that don't know, I think you'll appreciate it because we're going to get into it with Sifu Mark Wynter and have a really good time right now. So sit back, enjoy it. Here we go. So Sifu Mark, how you doing?
Hey, how are you doing, sir? Thank you very much for that intro, Sifu Joe. Wow, man, I'm flabbergasted, man. It's not every day that you hear somebody talking about your life, you know what I'm saying?
Yes.
So that intro was just, wow, mind-blowing. Literally it was. Thank you very much.
Well, you are a very close friend of mine, and one of my favorite people on the planet. So, I actually offered to do this because I've been watching you interview a lot of these people. And of course, everyone's nervous when they're in an interview, you know what I mean? But I enjoy the back and forth discussions. I think we get to learn a lot about not only the person you're interviewing, but we get to learn a lot about you. And, as I watch you do these interviews, I'm like, man, you're just great. Sometimes you hear something crazy someone says, and you're always very calm. Okay, that's wonderful. So I just think you have a really good posture and ability and control. So very, very good. But let's get started. You ready?
Yeah, man. Sure, definitely. What you got for me?
All right. So let's we're gonna use some of the questions that you do. So let's start with, how did you get started in the martial arts?
Very interesting story. It's actually very different from most of my other guests. Most of my other guests always say they got started in martial arts by watching Bruce Lee or by watching Kung Fu theater on Saturday mornings and stuff like that. Well, one, I didn't find out about Bruce Lee until I was in my teens, right?
Wow.
So my earliest reference to martial arts was actually the Karate Kid movies,
Oh, cool.
right? Right? So it was actually Karate Kid 1, the first Karate Kid movie that got me into it, that got me interested into it. And then it was the Karate Kid 2 that was had me kicking, doing crane kicks on my parents' bedroom bed, doing all sorts of things, kicking the plants outside, yeah, see if I can kick this branch or whatever. So then my mother was at 5 years old. My mother was like, let me just put you into a martial arts class. And it was Taekwondo. Specifically, it was WTF Taekwondo with Grandmaster Mu Young Yi at the time. I studied with him up until he left Jamaica when I was 12.
Wow.
And when he left, I stayed training with one of his top students in Jamaica. His name is Master Paul Lindo. Right, he's still down in Jamaica, and he's training a lot of champions down there right now. Then after that, actually at 17 years old, I actually left Jamaica to go to Panama. I lived in Panama for 2 years. Really, there was no training in Panama. It was more fighting than training, really. In South America, the easiest way for people to deal with things on the street, much like here of old, is just fist it out, fight it out. So it was really more fighting than anything down there in South America for me. But then when I went back to Jamaica for 6 months, and then after that, I came up here to the United States, specifically Fort Lauderdale. And that was in 1999. I came up here to start university. I went to Lynn University in Boca Raton. And it was actually at university that made me start to get back into the martial arts. I forget the program, but they pay the students to work on campus, right? So like, for example, when I first started the program, I worked in the gym. My boss at the time in the gym, he came up with the idea with me, hey, if you know something, you could probably teach a class. I was like, okay, I'll teach Taekwondo. So I started teaching the Taekwondo class there for about, I'd say about 3-4 months. And then I got bored with it and I didn't want to train with it anymore. Actually, to be honest, I think I was just really bored of Taekwondo, or I was just pretty bored because everything that I was practicing, I wanted to learn something new.
Right.
And I've been practicing the same thing since 1997. Haven't learned anything new. So really, I started to look around for teachers, and nothing really caught my eye. So I just kept on practicing and training on my own and so on. Kept doing my splits, kept doing all my stretches, all that stuff. So eventually, came up to around 2003, 2004. I graduated from college, and I didn't really know what I wanted to do with my life professionally. So, I just started going around and getting odd jobs. Like I was trying to sell timeshares at one point. Horrible, by the way. A horrible experience. What else? I was selling cruises. But then also from all of that, I found out that I didn't want to be in an office. I didn't want to sit down, right? So then an opportunity came. They were like, okay, the nightclub right down the road from my office, they're hiring for security. And I said, okay, no problem. So I'll go and I'll put in my my application for security. And they asked me, hey, do you have any security experience? Do you have any martial arts experience? I was like, yeah, I'm a 2nd degree black belt in Taekwondo. Yeah. But can I tell you something? From all of my martial arts experience up to then did not help me at all in my security job, to be completely honest. My security job was more grabbing people, controlling people, like you had said in the intro, right? And my martial arts experience up to that time was punching people, kicking people, right? Yeah. So I basically learned grappling, how to hold somebody on the job experience.
Wow.
Right. So that was dangerous. Yeah, it was. Yeah, it was. I was working at Voodoo Lounge. That was the club, Voodoo Lounge in downtown Fort Lauderdale. I did that for 4 years, man. 4 years, from 2004 to 2008. Right.
Wow.
And I do have to say, I love the experience, because if it weren't for Voodoo Lounge, I wouldn't have met you. I wouldn't have met my wife. I wouldn't have met a whole lot of things, you know?
Wow.
So that was great. So anyway, after Voodoo Lounge, right, I met you, and really my martial arts story up until now started because of you. And it was actually meeting you, Joe. And I remember I took somebody out. I took somebody out to the club, and you had come up to me and you say, "Hey, how are you doing, man? You have any martial arts experience?" All that stuff. I'm like, you took me by surprise. You know, I don't even think you remember how nervous I was answering you that stuff. Like, why is this guy talking to me like this? What's going on? But I think I didn't put two and two together until probably like a week, or possibly even 2 weeks after that time when we first met. I had met you again because you were doing I think it was a bat mitzvah, right? For in the club, because remember we used to hold like these little day parties in the club, and I think you were doing a lion dance for it. And vividly I remember it was you and Andre. Andre, wow. Haitian Andre who was doing it, and
the best guy ever.
Yeah, right. Yo, I tell you, whenever I think of Haitian Andre, this is what I think of: a big old smile from ear to ear, with his skin in his teeth. You know, he's a great guy, really great guy. So that's one of my first memories of you two, right, at that bar mitzvah, right? You had to remind me of that time of when we actually first met, when you came up and started speaking to me. But ever since then, I remember this was in 2004. So you had invited me over to the school to try a free class, right? See if I wanted it and stuff. By that time, you guys hadn't moved from the 441 location as yet. So that's
how so you started there. Wow.
Yeah, my free classes were at the 441, and that was in 2004. And then I don't know, something happened, but I didn't start right away with you guys, right? Because when I really started with you guys had already moved over to the Sunrise location, right? So that was what? That would be 2005,
6, I think, maybe
2006. There you go. So more serious, I started with you guys in 2006, really.
And I remember we still had our friendship, because me and Andre, now that we knew you were head of security, we would always come to Voodoo Lounge and hang out with you, you know, and then hang out there because we like to hang out there. So I think we still kind of like kept our friendship going, you know.
One of the things that I wish I had from that job still, right? They gave me these VIP cards that I could give out to people.
And you gave them to me and Andre. We might still have them somewhere, you know.
They were like really thick, like credit cards.
Yeah, they were nice, dude. I felt like, wow, I'm VIP.
Yeah, I felt important even giving them out, you know. Awesome. But yeah, man, getting back to our conversation about the martial arts. So I started with you guys at Lee Kun Hung Chole Foot Kung Fu Association in 2006. And really, I didn't even start for Chole Foot. Like I had said in the intro, I really started because of Fu Style Tai Chi, right? That's what drew me more to it, right? It was just something about Tai Chi. If you do Tai Chi correctly, right, you're not tense. If you do Tai Chi correctly, you're completely relaxed. And it was just something about that really, and hold on, I'm sorry about that. That really and truly, you know, that's what attracted me most about Tai Chi. The seemingly effortless motions that, you know, you could move somebody without any effort at all. You could fight without any effort, and it's through that effortless motions that true power comes forth. And I was like, wow, I really want to learn this. And my first teacher was our seeing Lou Fisher. That was my first teacher. And then after Lou was seeing John Grable. And then after him was Dorothy Chong. Right? And then after her is my Sifu now, who you introduced me to, Sifu Stephen Hua of the Wu Style Classical Tai Chi. There's so much, so much in between what I had just said. How can I say this? Okay, so I was at school. I was at Lee Kun Hong School till 2015, right? And when I left there, I moved up to Georgia, trying to see if I could, move my family up there for a better time. But that didn't pan out, so I moved back here, and still trying to find different jobs, trying to find where I'd fit in and stuff. And then one day, a man named Sifu Joe Keat gave me a call, and he had asked me, hey, are you still trying to teach Tai Chi? And I'm like, yes, I definitely am. He's like, you know what? I know somebody who actually is trying to give away like 5 of her classes. I'm like, oh, really? All right, no problem. And come to find out, who was it? Sifu Dorothy Chong, right? I'd met her previously, but not for long. Right, but I knew more of her sons. Right, I didn't meet her sons, but I felt like I knew them. They've been spoken about so many times in my presence that
they were very good at kung fu. I trained with Ken a lot. Ken was awesome. I really miss him. He was good, and he fought hard. He would punch you and everything. But very beautiful forms too. They had such amazing kung fu. Really, really good people.
That's good. That's good. You see, that's what I mean, right? Because hanging out with you, you'd always talk about them. So I'd feel like I knew them. But I was with Dorothy now from, I would say, when was that? It was like 2018.
I don't know. I think when I introduced you guys, you were like, oh, here's another opportunity to learn more Fu style, and she had other experience, I think, with Yang style as well. So I remember you had a brief time that you were training with her. But when I talked to her, she was really pretty much ready to retire. She just wanted to enjoy her grandchildren and things like that. She had been, teaching for on and off. Even with the Lee Kun Hung days, she was one of the instructors. When I first went there, she was one of the first people I talked to. And it was nice because she speaks English really well, so she could really explain a lot of more complicated things, which is really nice.
Yep. That's very true. That's very true. So when you hooked me up with Sifu Dorothy now, of course, it was to teach. I had actually gone there to really more take over the classes, because thinking, this is how you know that it's never good to assume anything. Never have assumptions, because usually those assumptions are completely wrong. So now, without asking you or even speaking to her directly about this, here I am going into this meeting, Sifu Dorothy, thinking that, okay, I'm going to take over classes. It's the Fu style and this and that. Come to find out, no, it's not the Fu style. She didn't teach the Fu style in these classes. So I had to learn new forms, right? Right. But the funny thing about it is, the way she taught it, you didn't mind learning something new, you didn't mind her teaching you something new. So with her, I learned, I went over my Fu style, but I also learned the Chen Pan Ling style. And that is a beautiful form. It's an absolutely beautiful form. So, I'll never be upset about having to learn something new. It's only better. You only better yourself when you learn new things. Right. So with Sifu Dorothy, I was with her on for about two years, and unfortunately, I heard not too long ago that she had passed last year. So I
didn't even know that. You see, Dorothy passed away?
Yes.
Wow.
Yes.
Oh my God.
But once again, you must never assume things. But in this instance, I will have to say, probably it's better on her terms, because what I have learned about Sifu Dorothy was that she was a very private person. She didn't want anybody to know about any of the stuff. So that's But
ooh, so when you just hit me with a punch in the face with that one, boy. Gosh, I didn't know.
Oh, I'm sorry about that, brother.
No, that's okay. That's okay.
But that it was a punch in the face for me as well, man. But as you know, we move on. Life goes on. I honor her every time I do the Chen Pan Ling form. Every time I do my Chen Pan Ling form, or even teach the Chen Pan Ling form, she's in the forefront of my mind. Like my classes today and tomorrow. Those are classes that she gave me. right?
Right.
And I'm teaching the Chen Panding form in those classes. So, she will
Do
always
you
be on.
do you still have some of her students? Like, are they still there, like with you, or is it all new
Yes,
people? Okay, that's cool.
all of them that were there,
Wow.
all of them that were there that still that didn't have any health problems. They're
Yeah.
still with me.
Oh
Like
wow, that's
one
cool.
of the oldest students that she had, his name is Augie, in his late 80s, right? So and he's doing well. He's doing very well. He's even coming for a couple other of my classes, like the cardio fit boxing class that I have.
Nice.
Right? He's starting to do that, and he's definitely flourishing with that. So, everything that I have right now has been, it's been built off of what I had attained from, Sifu Dorothy, which is thanks to you. So, it's all about connections. Anyway, I have a very funny thing to say about the connection-wise, but let me finish. Let me finish this. Right? So after Sifu Dorothy, right? I've been teaching, and thanks to you, I've been teaching and teaching and teaching, right? I think it was in 2019, I had somebody come up to me in one of my classes here in Tamarack, and they said, "Hey, you teach in a very particular way, because when I teach, I don't just teach the movement. I try to teach and give you a visual of what the move is doing. Why do you move like that, right? I try to give the intention behind the move, right? And usually, because it's Tai Chi, it's a martial art intention, right? So this student was very enamored by my explanations. She's like, you use combat to explain the movements. Do you know a guy named Stephen Hua? And then years go by, and then you again, right? You're like, hey, Mark, I have a friend who has a Tai Chi teacher, and he says he's an excellent Tai Chi teacher. But why don't you go check him out? I'm like, okay, I'll go check him out. And funny enough, who does it end up being? Master Stephen Hua, the same guy that the student asked me about. And I was like, you know what? Let me see what this is all about, right? So when I started from the first class with Master Hua literally, he made me feel something internally, right? First 5 minutes of the class. This is something I've never felt before. And so I told him what I felt, and he was like, you got it. You got what I'm teaching. You understand it. And I'm like, no, but I feel it, right? I don't understand it, but I definitely feel what's going on internally. And so ever since then, man, I've been with him for going on 3 years now.
That's awesome.
Right? And what I meant to tell you about the connections, right? Okay. So when we were doing our interview and you were telling me about Gantak Hoi, right? Okay. So Gantak Hoi, I know, had a student, right? Wabu, his name was Wabu Young my teacher pronounces it a little bit different, but of course he speaks Mandarin. So I think way how he pronounces is Weibu Young. Wow. So this guy, he actually was a student. Oh, Lordy. See that there? What's going on? I'm getting a little bit too excited, man. A little bit too excited.
And you thought you weren't going to have anything to say.
I really thought that. All right. So, okay. So, Yang Weibyo, right? He was actually a student of Gantak Hoi, right? And the way how the story goes is that when Master Wu Qianqian, when he came from, I think he was escaping the war, right, in China. I think he came from Shanghai and then went to Hong Kong. So when he went to Hong Kong, right, he lived in Hong Kong for 3 years with Yang Weibyo. And in the 3 years, right, he gave up all of his external martial arts to be a student of Wu Qianqian, right? And in those 3 years, he learned everything that Wu Qianqian had to teach him.
What internal style is it?
Wu style Tai Chi.
Wu style Tai Chi, okay.
Yeah, Wu style Tai Chi. So that's some awesome stuff, right? So that's Grandmaster Yang Weibyo, and who learned directly from Wu Qianqian. and that is my teacher's teacher, right? So it's from Yang Weibyo now that passes on to Stephen Hua, and then Stephen Hua down to me. Right?
Where did he learn? He learned in Hong Kong or in Taiwan, or where's Stephen Hua from?
Learned it here in New York.
Oh, in New York. Okay, cool.
Yeah,
because I know his English is really good. You know, I saw him talking to you, and I'm like, wow, he speaks English really good.
Yeah, man, it's very good English. He had actually moved over here in the 50s. So the thing about Master Hua now, Master Hua, he lived in New York for a long time, right? And that's where he met Grandmaster first Yang Weibyo's daughter Sonia. And then after that, Yang Weibyo came over, to Hong Kong to visit Sonia, and that's when he met Yang Weibyo. So then that's when the whole relationship teacher-student thing kind of started, right? Cool. And he was with Yang Weibyo all the way up until he died, right? And I think he died at 105 years old. So he was pretty old. Pretty good stuff. So yeah, that's how I got into the martial arts, man. All because of you.
Nah. No, I was at the halfway point. I might have just pointed the direction a few times. Hey, why you do that? But yeah, that's a lot of stuff, bro. And I didn't want to interrupt you, but there's a lot of things I'd like to ask you, if you don't mind. Let's go back to Jamaica when you were a kid. You saw the Karate Kid movie. You were how old? Like you said, 5 years old?
5, yeah.
And then you got into Taekwondo. How old were you when you did that? Again, what was it?
5.
Age? 5 years old. And you stayed until what age? In Jamaica?
In 97, so about 17.
17. So you got black belt. Yeah, you mentioned you had a black belt and stuff like that, right?
Yeah, I got my junior black belt when I was 12.
Okay, cool.
Right? But the way how Taekwondo, the WTF at least, Kukikon Taekwondo, the way how they work it is, if you get to black belt before 15, you're given a junior black belt.
Gotcha.
Then at 15, then you can get your full black belt. So the junior black belt is a half red, half black belt.
Gotcha. During that time, did you get to compete in Jamaica or go anywhere else and compete?
Yeah. Well, I did compete. I didn't compete in too many tournaments. At that time, there weren't that many tournaments going on around. But there were stuff like they did have the ITF tournaments. They did have the Songham. These are different Taekwondo organizations. International Taekwondo Federation, the Songham Taekwondo Federation. But then the biggest tournaments at that time in the 90s. Man, in the 90s, making me feel old right now, Joe.
It was just yesterday for me, dude.
Same here, bro. Same here. But the biggest tournaments were held by a school called what was it? It was the style was Seido Karate. That was so that school had the biggest tournaments in all of Jamaica. So I did compete in those. I probably I didn't win any. I wish I did. I did win a couple medals, but not too many gold. I tell you that much. I did go to an international tournament that was held here in That was held in Miami.
Cool.
That was when I was 8 years old.
Wow, that must have been amazing.
Yeah, it was a great experience. But once again, I will tell you, I didn't win any medals. But the experience.
Just the experience and trying, But what about life in Jamaica, dude? Can you paint us a picture a little bit of what it was like, maybe going through school and stuff? Because I know Jamaica is probably like here. You got good areas, bad areas. Of course. Did you have problems with people trying to bully you or anything like that, or did you get some scraps in school or stupid things? And did the Taekwondo training kind of affect you as a child in some other ways? I mean, that you find beneficial?
Okay, so life in Jamaica, how should I say? Life in Jamaica, I can only believe it's, now it's completely different from when I was growing up. Because as you know, man, being a kid growing up in the early 90s, bro, you didn't have cell phone. You didn't have, there was internet, there was, but man, it would be very hard to find somebody with a desktop computer at home, much less internet. right?
Okay.
All of that stuff was like work stuff, you know. Remember, we're still talking about the days when you wanted to call somebody, you have to literally pick up a phone and you press the buttons and stuff, right? So I would have to say I enjoyed life more like that, to be real. You know, I think I actually had the chance of being a kid, you know. In terms of bullying, I've had my fair share of bullying. I remember one of my first bullies that I had to deal with was probably when I was 9 or 10 years old, and I just popped him in the mouth. And I will tell you, he never bullied me again.
That's how you deal with it, unfortunately, sometimes.
Unfortunately, but remember, we live in a society now that if you pop the bully, you get in trouble. So,
yeah, it's insane.
Yeah, it's weird stuff. In terms of other bullies going throughout school, like high school and stuff, no. I didn't really have many bullies at all.
Let me also ask you too, like with Jamaica, I know there's a lot of different cultures there too, just like America. And you're part Chinese, if I remember correctly, right?
Yes.
Where did you ever feel like, maybe you weren't you didn't fit in with other kids in certain groups, or were you like everybody was pretty chill because it's kind of international there as well? Or was there any like weird vibes back then, or no?
Yeah, there were weird vibes back then.
Kids don't understand, so in the beginning, kids used to do dumb stuff until they get to know you on a more personal level, and then they're like, oh, okay. Until they get older and they realize, where you come from doesn't matter. Like what you look like really doesn't matter. What's on the inside. So the kids have a hard time dealing with that sometimes, especially when they group together, and stuff,
Yeah, that's a really good question, man. But what I can say is like, okay, the idea of race and the segregation, that's more here. That's more up here, right? I mean, you do have your segregation and stuff of races everywhere you go, right? It doesn't matter what country. Chinese people will flock to Chinese people.
It's just like a comfort thing,
exactly. So that will just happen naturally. But no, I didn't really. Well, there are. You have to. I mean, wherever differences lie, that's where prejudice will rear its ugly head. So to say that no, I have never dealt with it in Jamaica would be a lie. Yeah, I've experienced it, but I've experienced it more here than in Jamaica.
Wow.
Sure, like they do. They'll refer to you by what they see. If they see a more Chinese face, they'll call you Mr. Chin. If they see a more Caucasian face, they'll say Mr. Jack, or they'd say things on how you look. Of course, you could have an Indian man who looks white, or you can have an Indian man who looks black, and they call him to whatever they see. So I don't know how racist that is. I just it's just going along with what they see.
But like one thing about you and me that's very similar is we have thick skin. We don't really get offended very easily. You know what I mean? And I know for me, it's because I've already proven to myself what I can do. And I know that if I need to, I could just keep walking right into a war, and I know what I'm capable of, and I'll keep working until I die if I have to. You know what I mean? So I've already proven to myself what I can do and what I'm capable of. So if somebody comes at me and is either racist towards me or angry at something, whatever, a lot of the times I have the ability to stop and just go, okay, what's wrong with this person? Maybe there's something on this person's side. So is there something like that for you? I don't know, maybe you've gained it from the martial arts, maybe you gained it from your mother or a family member. I mean, is there something like that makes you uniquely who you are? Because you don't get easily offended either, and you always remain very calm. And I think that's what my eyes noticed about you when you had that person, is you stopped that person at Voodoo Lounge, not only from harming you or other people, but you helped make sure that he left that club unharmed.
Yes.
So to have that type of control, you have to have a very strong mind. And that's like, it wasn't because of your technique or you did a backflip and landed into a funny pose. Like I saw that in you, and that's when I was like, there's something about this guy. Like I gotta meet him and see about the martial arts. And then like I knew like if we worked together, and you would definitely be easy to train, whatever fight forms, whatever, and also have a good mannerism because you have emotional intelligence, you have emotional control. Whereas today, people get easily offended by like anything, and then it's like racist this or racist that, and it's really not. You know what I mean? Like everybody's just screaming it all the time, and then when we really have a problem, no one's gonna listen. You know what I mean? Mm-hmm. So that type of control, I think, for an individual is really important to have this power over like where no one can really affect you. I mean, yeah, things can bother you, but if you just take a deep breath, you realize it's not that important. So like, how did you gain that? Because you do have it. I don't know if you've ever thought about it before, but this is something very important, and why I think you're anyone who learns with you is very lucky because you have this stability. You know what I mean?
Yeah. Okay. That's a really good question. I'll answer it first directly the way how you asked it. I don't wear my heart on my sleeve.
Boom.
Right. If you wear your heart on your sleeve, your heart is it's exposed, so it's easily hurt. Right? It's and within that heart is your pride as well. Right? So if that hurt, your pride takes a hit, and wait, man, So if you wear your heart on your sleeve, well, then you're just asking for it. Right? So what I do is I try and keep my heart down here, all the way down here. So if somebody tries to get it, you're not getting that. You're not getting my heart. My heart's down here. It's secure, like how you say it, right?
Yeah.
But thinking about what I just said, I think I first probably realized that in Taekwondo, from Taekwondo sparring, really, because I mean, I hate to sound like the cliche guy who takes this from Bruce Lee and stuff like that, but when you're sparring, Bruce Lee's words, when fighting is the truest form of expression, right? Because literally, all the theory, all the technique that you learned, right? It's not that you have to throw it out the door, but you can't think 1, 2, 3, 4. You have to think 1, 4. Right? You have to go right through
or just one, if possible.
Exactly. If there's only one thing you can think about, right? Just one, right?
Yeah.
So I kind of realized that as a kid, sparring, right, is one of the things that I love doing so much. Sparring, like in Taekwondo as a kid, they had 1-step sparring. You start off, you throw one kick, and then the guy throws one kick, then 2-step sparring, then 3-step sparring, and then free sparring. Right, and that was actually my favorite part of the class. I really wasn't a form guy, I wasn't a fitness guy. I wanted to fight. I wanted to do the same things that the Cobra Kais were doing to Daniel LaRusso, but I really wanted Daniel LaRusso to do all those stuff back to the Cobra Kai guys, So when Karate Kid 3 came out and LaRusso started to become Cobra Kai, I was like, yes, finally, but
you ever seen that video where they changed the story that really Daniel LaRusso is the bully?
Yes, I have.
That's a funny video. Well, those of you watching, check that out. Where Daniel is the bully. It's pretty hilarious.
It makes you think. It makes you think and makes you realize that perspective is everything.
Absolutely. Sometimes no bad person thinks they're bad. But we all have the capability of doing good and bad things, and that's why I think some of the things that we learn in martial arts, like, there's going to be times where your ego gets a little out of control, and then you get checked, and then you're really humble, and then you're being too soft, and then you're not confident, you don't try hard, then you got to jump back on, and it's like these, you go from one extreme to the other until you're finally on that middle path, So
yeah.
Pretty wild. But another thing I wanted to ask too is, like, you were mentioning that you lived in Panama for a short time, and it was really mainly just fighting. When you say that, do you mean like unfortunately getting in street fights, or was there like a group of people that you guys just trained with and sparred, or was it just self-defense situations?
That's another good question, Joe. No training. I didn't train with anybody. I didn't fight with any. Well, I didn't. Meaning like I didn't train fighting with anybody. It's like okay, okay. I'll explain the situation. Okay, so I had graduated high school in 1996, right? And I went to Panama as an exchange student, right?
Wow.
There was this a program called ASF, exchange students, right? And so that's it. If you're an exchange, the last word is student. I had just graduated from high school, mind you. I just graduated from high school. So I'm going to Panama to go back to high school for a year. Right?
Wow, that's tough.
I was so not into it. I was not into going back into school. So when I went to Panama, I was probably in the school system for, I'd say 6 months, right?
Oh, wow.
Until I said, you know what, I just really don't want to be in school anymore. I've already graduated, and now I have to do all of this in Spanish on top of that. No.
What was the reason to go there? Was it to learn Spanish, or was it just you didn't? I mean, why get into that program to begin with? Was there a reason for that?
You hit it right on the head right there, man. My father's from Cuba. Right.
Okay.
Originally from Cuba, but lived most of his life in Jamaica, of course. So I've known Spanish. Like I've had some inkling of Spanish all my life. You could speak it to me, I'll understand it, but I couldn't speak it. Right. So as soon as I was done with high school, and almost a year after finishing, I wasn't doing anything with myself. My parents were just like, you know what, go do something productive. Right. Of course. If my mom is watching this interview now, sorry, mom, to let the cat out of the bag that I really wasn't.
Hi, mom. Thanks for having Mark.
But yeah, man. So before about 6 months of being in Panama, I was just like, you know what, I'm tired of school. So then I just, as soon as they, the people I've been living with, they dropped me off at school, I'd turn right around and walk right back out to the gate and go to the bus stop and go and visit some friends or go to the beach. There's in Colón. In Colón, that's where I was in Panama. Colón is on the Caribbean side of Panama, right? So the biggest beach, the biggest tourist attraction is a place called Isla Grande, the Big Island, right off the coast of Colón. I do that almost every 2 days. I'd leave school and just go out to Isla Grande and just chill out, play guitar, smoke weed, just talk to girls, really. Just
a lot of beautiful women here.
What? Right? Just live up the life, So that's what I did in Panama for about, I'd say, around 7 months, until the program was just like, you know what? We don't think you're learning anything here because this is so similar to where you're from in Jamaica, which was pretty true because everybody in Colón, they spoke English, right? Because most of them were from Caribbean heritage, right? So they all spoke some form of English, So, right. But I still was learning Spanish, but they still were like, yeah, we don't think you're learning anything. So then they sent me into the interior of the country. Like if this was Panama, right?
Yeah, so
Colón would be up here. Now I'd be in the middle of the country. Absolutely nothing to do, no English. But you know what? To be honest, that was the best thing that they could have done, because my Spanish went from here to here in no time.
No distractions.
I was absolutely no distractions. Nobody spoke English. Even the television, even the radio, all of it was Spanish. There was no English at all.
Wow.
So my last year and a half, my last year or so in Panama was great.
Getting back to the fighting thing, I wanted to ask too, is like, you said you were fighting in Panama. What was going on? Like, was there?
Oh yeah, sure. Like, okay. So as I was saying, like, you go to the bus stop, right? And say you buy something from one of the vendors inside there, right? And you bought something that somebody else wanted. They feel as if you're nothing, you don't pose a threat to them. They're going to stand up and they're going to try and take what you bought. How do you stop somebody from taking something that's yours? You obviously tell them, stop, no, that's mine. Once something escalates past that, well, you have a fight going on. It was
Right.
very common, especially in South America, man. You know, you're from, I don't, well, I shouldn't assume, again, I shouldn't assume. You've been to Brazil a fair amount of times now. I don't know how it is in Brazil, but I know South Americans, they're very, once they think they're right, and once you have two people who are saying they're right, well,
yeah,
that's why.
Luckily, I'm always with some really special people that keep me out of trouble. But there was a time where I went with Haitian Andre and two other friends, and we just said, you know what, we're going to go to Rio de Janeiro and have a good time. And yeah, we got to see how intense it really is, you know. And I was like, you know what, I'm fine just going to Brazil with Kung Fu people and having Kung Fu people host me to teach or whatever. Because yeah, man, you know, if a situation like that happens, you don't speak the language, you can't talk your way out of it. And then, you know, you never know how the police are going to be, if there's even paramedics. You know, I was in South Africa for, I think it was like 10 days. I didn't see one cop the whole time. Yeah, and we drove through Johannesburg, and the guy was like, "Hey, make sure you keep the windows up because if the windows down, they'll just shoot you, kill you. Nobody will come and respond." And then that person, a friend of mine, I think someone was holding his child hostage for like almost 48 hours. So it took I think 24 to 48 hours for the police to arrive. So he finally left South Africa, obviously. But so you just never know what you're getting into, you know, because the way we look at things is like, oh, we're going to this country, like Brazil. Yeah, like I think about the people, you know, the culture, how the fun, the festive stuff. We don't think about the dangerous aspects of it, you know. And then when you start to see it, automatically something, you know, your radar starts going off, and you're like, okay, we better like not. We got to be careful. Either don't go in that area, or let's just exit stage left, you know. But yeah, that makes perfect sense, and I'm glad nothing seriously bad happened to you, because it's really, really dangerous. And whenever you start throwing blows at somebody, even in the 90s, you never know if they're gonna have a knife or a friend, you know. Like, you know, I've been jumped by 2 or 3 people, maybe even 4, I don't even know, but like I got knocked out, got up, came to, started swinging, able to create some space and got out of there real quick. And it's insane. It's, you know, there's really no way to fight more than 1 or 2 people. You have to create some sort of shock so that you have time to run, you know. And yeah, so just very happy that you made it out of there alive, because, you know, same thing with me in Brazil. Like, what am I thinking? 4 of us who don't speak Portuguese, you know, hanging around in a very dangerous city. Like, you know, what if we had gold chains on, and, you know, like we would have been done, you know.
Yeah, definitely. I understand that.
Yeah, so sometimes you got to be smart and not be naive, you know. But I mean, that's part of life. You know, we're just lucky that we're still alive.